Hello, it's Chris from My Stamp Lady, and I'm here with the Tea Together stamp set. So we're going to make a darling card for a friend with this stamp set today. I'm also using this lace embossing folder. Now this embossing folder can be found in our occasions catalog, and some people say it's a little tricky to find. So I'm going to show you where it is. It's on page 11, the Lace Dynamic Textured Impressions embossing folder. So I'm going to use that with the Tea Together, and once I have the occasions catalog here, I'm going to show you where you can find the Tea Together stamp set, which is on page 49. Beautiful tea time set. And this is all in our current occasions catalog. So we're using the lace dynamic folder, the Tea Together. I've also, from that same occasions catalog, pulled in a sentiment. I love the sentiments in this incredible Like You stamp set. So Glad We Are Friends is the one I'm going to use. There's also Incredibly Proud of You. I Just Adore You. I Hope Your Day is as amazing as you. And then it's got wonderful flowers and additional things, and it has a whole kit to go with it. But one of my favorites about this set is just those sentiments. Then the special item I'm using today is the Tea Time Framelit Dies. So this is a set of dies that's available right now in our celebration catalog. So this is a catalog that's available right now through the end of March. And on page 17, you can find these dies that work with that Tea Together stamp set. And this is a free item that you can earn with the purchase of Stampin' Up! Product right now. And this is, it has wonderful dies to cut out the teapot, the cup, and the flowers, and some leaves. It's a really nice set to have, especially if you don't like to do any fussy cutting. So if this is one of the first videos you've been to for My Stamp Lady, you can go to my blog, and I will have all the dimensions of all the paper that I'm cutting here. You can find the link down below, or just go to mystamplady.com and look for the Tea Together, post. So we're going to get started with this fun card to send off to a friend. I love the pop of red with the Highland Heather. So my main focus today with this card is the heat embossing with the black embossing powder that I'm going to do here. I love the heat embossing. It's almost magical to watch, and it just gives you some nice distinct lines here to color in and to work with. I'm going to start out though with heat embossing. So I need to heat emboss the flower and the teapot to start with. So when you heat emboss, this is my image that I'm going to be using. It's the teapot. I'm also going to be embossing this flower. You need a really sticky ink, and the sticky ink that I recommend is the Versamark. It is a clear ink, but it will stay wet nice and long, so you can get the powder on your paper and get that heat set. I also recommend the black embossing powder. I love this for a neutral look. Now the powder does come in a little jar. I've poured it into this little snap container to make it easier to use. But the black powder is a nice versatile powder to use. And then you will need a heat tool to heat set this. I'm often asked if you can use a hairdryer. A hairdryer does not work because it will blow away the powder, and that gets much hotter than a hairdryer. I would recommend you start by using the Embossing Buddy, which is an anti-static powder bag. This will cut down on any static, any fingerprints. It will just prevent that powder that we're going to sprinkle on there from sticking to anywhere that we don't want it to stick. So I'm going to stamp my flower first. You cannot see the Versamark where I've stamped it because it's clear. You will be able to see the image when I start sprinkling the powder on because it will grab that powder. You want to move fairly quickly, but you don't have to hurry because you do not want the Versamark to dry before you sprinkle the powder on. Okay, so that's my flower. And now I'm just going to sprinkle. You will see that you do not need very much of the powder. So most of it will be just sprinkled over and then dumped back into your container. You do want to get off any powder little speckles that might be left on there, because after you've heat set it, they will be permanent. And with your heat tool, you will want to warm it up a little bit, and then you point it directly at the powder, and you will watch it and see it melt. It is a really neat, it turns shiny as it starts to melt and becomes permanently on your paper. After my images have cooled, I am going to die cut them. And then I'm going to color them afterwards. I do like to do my die cutting first, just in case something should happen and it slips, or you can always tape it down so it does not slip, but I don't like to do my coloring before I die cut, just in case there's a problem, and then I would have to start that coloring all over. So I like to get my die cutting done first. So I have a magnetic platform, an acrylic pad, and an additional acrylic pad, and then I will run this through my Big Shot. So I've decided to add an additional flower, and I want to heat emboss this also. So again, I'm going to start with that embossing buddy, just so I don't get the oils and it'll prevent the powder from sticking where I don't want it. And I am going to just stamp this down in the corner of the teapot. And then I will sprinkle it again with that embossing powder. You want to be sure that you don't overheat your embossing powder. Otherwise you will scorch your paper and then it'll kind of over melt the entire powder right back into the paper. If you do get a few of those pieces of powder where you don't want them, a paintbrush is really handy to have to just get those brushed away. And just like before, I will need to heat set this. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, just a warning, that heat tool does get very hot, and when I did that smaller flower, I used a tweezer just to hold it so I didn't burn myself, so just kind of a note there. So now I have these embossed and I'm ready to paint. I'm going to use an aqua painter, just like a paintbrush, and this is in our annual catalog. I'm going to use an aqua painter to paint my images here, and I'm going to start with the Highland Heather. I have found I used to squeeze, if you've watched any of the other My Stamp Lady videos, you notice that I would squeeze it into the top. The new style ink pads are a little bit stiffer. You can still do it, but I am starting to find that I like to take some type of I like to take some type of non-porous surface. Just need to squeeze and get a little bit more water flowing through here. Oh, there we go. Hopefully it's not too much. Okay, I did get a little bit more water than I wanted on there, so I just went and got a toweling and I'm just wiping that up. Okay, so back to using the acrylic block here or any non-porous surface to pick up your ink. I used to kind of squeeze it in, if you've seen some of my other videos, into the top of the lid. The new style ink pad is a little bit stiffer. You can still do it, but I have found I haven't been as happy, or it hasn't been quite as easy to do. So instead, we're just going to take some non-porous surface and pick up that ink. So I want to do the center of this flower with crushed curry. If you do not have an ink pad, you can take an acrylic block or plastic spoon or anything else. Pick up some of, or just scribble with your marker onto that non-porous surface, and you get a nice little paint pad. So here's an older style ink pad, and you can see that I have squeezed that, pressed that ink right into the cover, and I can just use that to pick up a little bit of the ink rather than pressing the acrylic block into it. So a couple of options here when you're watercoloring with ink, how you can do it. So there we go. Oh, actually I'm going to do the leaves on this flower also with lemon lime twist. That's the color I have here. This is one of the in colors that is going away soon. In the 2019 catalog is the last one here, the 2018-19 catalog. So they do start to sell out any of the coordinating supplies, the re-inkers, the papers, not too long from now. So I would recommend stocking up on those retiring in colors. Okay, so then just around my teapot, I'm going to take a little bit of the smoky slate. So I'm going to press a little more into there. Open that up, and I am just going to add some shading around the edges of my teapot. So I don't want it super concentrated. I'm going to start it off. I got it fairly thinned out, and I'm just going to add some shading around my teapot. Okay, so there, I just did a rough color around the edges, and I'll let that dry. I'm going to use Blackberry Bliss, and this is my last color that I'm going to use. Pull in for the coloring this is the last color I'm using for watercoloring. So I've put a little bit of the Blackberry Bliss onto this acrylic block. Then I'm just going to color in. I decided to use a shade a bit darker than the Highland Heather to coordinate it for this rose. And I'm going to first of all go over and cover the entire flower. One thing nice about doing the embossing is that you kind of get some natural barriers for your watercolor, even though I did manage to go over there. Okay, set that aside. So I have all of my coloring done. And I can just close this up and clean that off. Now I would like a spot for my teapot and my flower to sit on. I'm going to use a piece of the Highland Heather cardstock. I'm going to cut it out with a circle just so I have kind of a like a tablecloth looking or just an embossed napkin type thing. And we're going to die cut this first and then I will emboss it. So I've used one of the layering ovals, one of my staple sets. This is in the regular catalog right now. You will not regret having this die set in your collection. I die cut it first and then I'm going to emboss it, because if I were to emboss it first and then go to die cut it, I would squish out some of that embossing. This is a dynamic folder, so it's one of our thicker folders, so you need to use just the Big Shot platform without the thin die adapter, one acrylic pad. You only need one acrylic pad, and you want to put that fold facing forward or backward just so that you don't rip it up as it's going through the Big Shot. By having that fold go directly into the machine, it's going to last longer. So there is my gorgeous deep embossing. You could even spritz it with a little bit of water if you want it deeper. Now I have my Poppy Parade. So here's my pop of red in with this color. I'm going to pull in a Stampin' Pierce pad. It gives me a little cushion, and I want that cushion because this is a photopolymer stamp set, which means it doesn't have the cushion behind it. So that Stampin' Pierce pad just helps you get a better image. Ink this up with the Poppy Parade. And then this just goes into the upper left corner. And you notice with the photopolymer sets, it's really nice that you can just see right through that. And I'm going to stamp that up in the corner. And now I have all my stamping done, so now I just need to do a little of assembly. And I use some dimensionals, and I also use some regular adhesive. So this piece can just be placed flush right down onto the cardstock mat. This is a Poppy Parade piece of cardstock, and I have all the dimensions on this blog post on my website at mystamplady.com. Now I have my sentiment piece matted. I'm going to just add my lace piece, my embossed lace piece down here at the bottom. Just trying to figure out for placement where I wanted that. And I'll put down my snail. You know, another good glue to work here would be a liquid glue. And that would be, it would hold that really nicely in place too. So now I can put down my teapot. I want to use dimensionals because I want a little bit of lift from the background. So the dimensionals are wonderful for getting a little bit of lift. Put some, and then I'm going to use a couple of the mini. I love the minis. They just came out recently, and they're so nice for those little tiny spots to get into. And we'll put down remove the covers here, and put down my teapot. Before I place this down on my cardstock base, I'm going to take a piece of the polka dot tulle ribbon, and I'm just going to tie a quick knot. This works really nice. It has kind of an elegant look with the tea set, and I'm just going to tie a knot in the center here. Let's trim that up. Okay, now I can place this down on my card base. Now my card base is made from a half a sheet of the thick Whisper White cardstock, 5.5 by 8.5. This is my favorite cardstock to use for my card bases. It's a nice heavyweight cardstock. And we'll just press that into place. Okay. I am also going to put some of those mini dimensionals behind my flower here. And just let that pop up a bit. Just wanted to make sure I didn't put a dimensional down between the teapot and the flower, or else I would have it kind of bulking up where I don't want it. Remove those covers, and we'll tuck that right up next to our teapot. Okay, so I have my flower in place. I have my bow. Not just that bow, just a tiny bit. Pull it down just a little bit. One of my favorite ways to finish off a card is with the rhinestones. I'm just using a few of the rhinestone jewels just to pick them up, and I'm using the Take Your Pick tool. This was new in the, let's see, was it new in the, it was new in the fall catalog, but I believe it's still in the occasions catalog. If not, you can go to my online store and just search for the Take Your Pick tool, and it's easy to find. It is still available. And I have a very fun card to send off to a friend with the lovely Tea Together set and the Tea Time Framelits. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me, Chris at mystamplady.com, and all the supplies are in my online store at shopwithmystamplady.com. Be sure to subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching.